In this video, we are going to actually walk through the Unit 2 test review. It is not required for you to watch this, but if you have questions, this way you can go ahead and watch me walk through them, and then maybe that will answer your questions. Maybe you just need to talk to me face to face, that's fine. This is not taking the place of asking questions in class, it's just an extra resource for you. So there's no new information. This is just walking straight through the video. Don't watch it all. If you only have questions on a few problems, skip back and forth to find those problems. With that said, let's get started. All right. So for number one, we're trying to find the length of LM, and I'm always going to just mark these question marks with X's because that's the thing we don't know. That's what we're looking for. So we know that the length of LM plus the length of MN equals the length of the whole thing. When you see a figure that looks like that, that means the whole line segment is 13. So we know this is X plus 6 equals 13. So X is 7. We just subtracted 6 from both sides. So the length of LM equals 7. For number two, the length of HI plus the length of IJ equals the length of HJ, excuse me. So that would be 12 plus X equals 23. Subtract 12 from both sides. So X is 11. So we know IJ equals 11. And again, like I'm writing these steps on here just as a way to help you see, because once we get into these more complicated ones, it will be more helpful. So just for you to see the process from start to finish. Number three, we've got HI plus IJ equals HJ. HI is 4X, and I'm going to always put parentheses around these. IJ is 9X, and the whole thing is 13. Well, 4X plus 9X is 13X. So 13X equals 13. Divide both sides by 13. So we get X equals 1. And that's what it tells us to solve for, so we're done. We could plug that back in to get what the individual pieces are, which we'll do in the next section. But this just says X, so we're done there. Number four, we've got ST plus TU equals the whole thing, SU. So that's 2X minus 12 plus 9 equals X plus 7. First thing we want to do is combine those like terms. So we've got 2X minus 3 equals X plus 7. We'll subtract X from both sides to get all our X's in one place. So if X minus 3 equals 7, then we will add 3 to both sides to get our constants all on one side. So X is 10. For 5 and 6, we start off the same way, but now we're going to plug it back in, and you need to pay attention to what segment you are asked to find in the end. So we know that ST plus TU equals SU. So that's X minus 3 plus X minus 5 equals 16. Let's combine our like terms. We've got 2 X's, and negative 3 minus 5 will give us minus 8 equals 16. We'll add 8 to both sides, so we get 2X equals 24. Divide both sides by 2, so X equals 12. But that's not where we stop because we have to find TU. So TU is going to be, it's X minus 5, so we'll do 12 minus 5. So TU is 7. For number 6, JK plus KL equals JL. That'll be 3 plus x plus 2 equals 2x minus 2. Combine like terms. That'll be x plus 5. And this time, just to show you that it works either direction, I'm going to move my x's to the right side. This also keeps me from having a negative in front of them. So that gives us 5 equals x minus 2. We'll add 2 to both sides, so we get 7 equals x. And we're trying to find JL. That's the whole thing. So JL equals 2 times 7 minus 2. That'll be 14 minus 2, so JL equals 12. For the next 4, we are just finding the midpoint. Remember, that's add your x's, find the average of your x's and your average of your y's. So for number 7, we do 7 plus negative 1 over 2 and negative 4 plus 1 over 2. 7 plus negative 1 is going to be 6. Negative 4 plus 1 is going to be negative 3. And then if we can, we want to reduce our fractions. 6 over 2 reduces to 3. And then we've got negative 3 halves for our y value. For number 8, we'll start with 8 plus 2 over 2. And we've got negative 7 plus negative 5 over 2. 8 plus 2 is 10. Negative 7 plus negative 5 is negative 12. Both of those can reduce. 10 over 2 is 5. Negative 12 over 2 is negative 6. For number 9, we've got 5 plus 2 over 2. And for our y's, we've got negative 1 plus 2 over 2. 5 plus 2 is 7. Negative 1 plus 2 is 1. And keep that over 2. And neither of those reduce, so we're already done. And our last one, we've got 3 plus 3 over 2. Then negative 6 plus negative 1 over 2. That will give us 6 over 2 and negative 7 over 2. We need to reduce the first one. So 6 over 2 is really 3. Now for the second one, the fraction can't reduce, but we do want to pull our negative sign out to the front. That's just one of those nitpicky things. For 11 and 12, we're finding the distance, which means we need to plug into the distance formula. So I didn't do this for my midpoints, but x1, y1, x2, y2. I should have done it for my midpoints, I just forgot to. So we'll have x2 minus x1, that's negative 3 minus 3, we'll square that, plus then y2 minus y1, we'll square that. Negative 3 minus 3, that's going to give us negative 6. Then negative 5 minus 3 is going to give us negative 8. Negative 6 squared is positive 36. Negative 8 squared is positive 64. When we add those together, we get 100, and the square root of 100 is 10. Now, we talked about when you do square roots, you put the plus or minus, but because this is distance, it's always positive. So you can just put the number 10 there. For 12, x1, y1, x2, y2, negative 3 minus 5 all squared plus 5 minus 7 all squared. That will be -8 squared plus -2 squared. -8 squared gives us 64. -2 squared gives us 4. When we add those together, we get 68. And when we take the square root of that in our calculator, we'll round to 2 decimal places. That will be, it's about 8.25. And I'm going to go back in. I will not count off points if you use an equal sign, but I'm going to use my approximate sign. All right, 13 and 14, we're just wanting to name our angle, but we want to do 4 different ways to do it. Remember, we can do a number if they're given numbers. We can do the vertex by itself. Sometimes, both of these you can do that on. Then we can use 3 letters with the vertex in the middle, and it can go either direction. So that counts as the 3rd and 4th way. So we could call this angle 2, or angle I, because that's our vertex, or angle HIJ, or angle JIH. For number 14, we could call this angle 3, or angle F, or angle EFG, or angle GFE. Notice for each of these, F is in the middle because it's our vertex. For each of these, I is in the middle because it's the vertex. 15 through 18, we're looking at classifying our angles: acute, obtuse, right, or straight. And for the pictures, it's what it looks like. So for 15, you can assume that's a right angle. It appears to be a right angle. I won't give you one that's 91 degrees or 89 degrees as a picture that you can't really tell. 16 is obtuse. 17, 180 degrees. If it's exactly that amount, it's a straight angle. And 18 is greater than 90 and less than 180, so it's obtuse also. For number 19, we are told that we're trying to find this angle, so we'll call it X. Nope, I marked that wrong. We're trying to find RST, we're trying to find the whole thing, so we'll call the whole thing X. And we know that ZST is 42 degrees and RST is 100 degrees. So this is where we use that angle addition. Small angle plus small angle equals the whole thing. So we know that the measure of angle ZST plus the measure of angle RSZ equals the measure of angle RST, the whole thing. So 42, we're just plugging in now, plus 100 equals, and this is what we don't know, so it's X. So 42 plus 100 gives us 142 degrees, so that's our angle. And I'm going to write this properly. The measure of angle RST equals 142 degrees. Now, let's say this one is probably easy enough to do in your head, or at least on a calculator without writing down. So if that's the case, and you just wrote 142 degrees, I'll give you full credit. Make sure you have your degree sign on it, but the most accurate thing to do would be to actually write measure of angle RST equals 142. For number 20, we're trying to find MQP. So we're trying to find this angle, one of the smaller ones. And we know that RQM is 43 degrees. And the whole thing, RQP, is 163 degrees. So for our setup, the measure of angle MQP plus the measure of angle RQM equals the measure of the whole thing RQP. So that would be X plus 43 equals, and the whole thing is 163. So again, from here, you're just subtracting. So we would know X equals 120. So the measure of angle MQP is 120 degrees. '21 and 22 start off the same way, only this time we are solving for X. So we know it's small piece plus small piece equals the whole thing. FDE is 139x plus 1. CDF is 1 plus 26x. The whole thing is 167. So the measure of angle FDE plus the measure of angle CDF equals the measure of angle CDE. And now I'm just going to plug in for those angles. 139x plus 1 plus 1 plus 26x equals 167. Combine your like terms. Here we have 155x plus 2. Excuse me, 165x equals 167. We'll subtract 2 from both sides, so we have 165x equals 165. Divide both sides by 165, so x equals 1. And that's all we had to do. We didn't have to plug it back in. Number 22. DEQ is 12x minus 5. QEF is 55. I put these in out of order. I'm going to rewrite them just so my colors match up and I'm consistent. And then the whole thing is 23x minus 5. Our setup's the same way. Small angle plus small angle equals the whole thing. So the measure of angle QEF plus the measure of angle DEQ equals the measure of angle DEF. So that'll be 55 plus 12x minus 5 equals 23x minus 5. Now we'll combine like terms on the left side of the equal sign. That'll give us 12x plus 50 equals 23x minus 5. Let's move all our x's to one side. Give us negative 11x plus 50 equals negative 5. We'll subtract 50 from both sides, and I'm going to run out of space. Negative 11x equals negative 55. Divide both sides by negative 11. So we get x equals 5. Our next section starts off the exact same way, but notice here we're trying to find an angle in each of these. So we find x just like we did, but then we have to plug it back in. So I'm going to stop color coding my angles this time around, just to move through it a little bit quicker. I am still going to label my picture. Okay, WJI is 32 degrees. KJW is 31x minus 2. KJI, the whole thing, is 45x plus 2. And we're trying to find KJI, the whole thing. So I'm going to just put a circle right there to remind me that's what I need to plug into. So the measure of angle WJI plus the measure of angle KJW equals the measure of angle KJI, the whole thing. So it'll be 32 plus 31x minus 2 equals 45x plus 2. Combine your like terms. So this will give us 31x plus 30 equals 45x plus 2. We'll move all our x's to one side. So give us negative 14x plus 30 equals 2. Subtract 30 from both sides. Negative 14x equals negative 28. Divide by negative 14. Oh, I'm running out of space. So x equals 2. But then we need to take that 2 and plug it back in to KJI. So the measure of angle KJI equals 45 times 2 plus 2. That'll be 90 plus 2. So the measure of angle KJI is 92. And remember, that's in degrees. All right, for number 24, TUV, that's the whole thing, is 171. MUV is negative 1 plus 151x. And TUM, I'm going to have to write it off to the side, is 22x minus 1. So small angle plus small angle equals whole thing. Oh, and we're looking for MUV. So that's the one we'll plug back into. So measure of angle TUM plus the measure of angle MUV equals the measure of angle TUV. That'll be 22x minus 1 plus negative 1 plus 151x equals 171. Combine like terms. We've got some x's to put together. We've also got some constants to put together. So this will give us 173x minus 2 equals 171. We'll add 2 to both sides, so 173x equals 173. Divide by 1, so x, that's wrong. Divide by 173, so x equals 1. So when we plug 1 in for angle MUV, we get negative 1 plus 151 times 1. That'll be negative 1 plus 151. So the measure of angle MUV equals 150 degrees. Now those are the problems that will take the longest out of everything that is on the test. Just so you know, those angle problems tend to take longer. All right, for our next section, we're just classifying our angles, our angle pairs. So 25, these, we don't know anything about their measurements, so it can't be complementary or supplementary. So it has to be vertical or linear pair or adjacent. Linear pair and supplementary, most of the time, a linear pair is always supplementary. So even though supplementary is not on the list, like for 28, if you wrote supplementary, I would give you credit for that. The more specific name, so this is okay, but the best answer would be linear pair. So going back to 25, we know these don't form a linear pair because there's no straight line. They're next to each other, so they can't be vertical. They have to be adjacent angles. 26, we don't know anything about their measurements, but we do know we have two lines that intersect and they're on opposite sides of that intersection. So that makes these vertical angles. 27, we aren't given their measurements, but we do have that perpendicular box. And remember, if this is perpendicular, this is also perpendicular. So we know A and B add up to 90 degrees, and that makes them complementary angles. For 29, here we know these together add up to 180 degrees because they're a linear pair. So we could say B plus 30 equals 180. And so B is 150 degrees because we subtracted 30 from both sides. For number 30, we have not yet talked about this the easy way. But we know that this whole thing is 180 degrees. So we could find this angle the same way we did number 29 by doing 180 minus 49. That would give us 131 degrees. And then we know these two add up to 180 degrees. So we could do 180 minus 131. And that's going to give us 49 degrees. And what we'll learn soon is that vertical angles will always have the same measure. We're not there yet, but they will always have the same measure. All right, on to the last page. Because of our number 31, because of that box, we know that these add up to 90 degrees. So B plus 31 equals 90. So angle B is going to be 59 degrees. That's a horrible 5. I'm going to rewrite it. 59 degrees. And 32 is just like number 30. Now that you know the shortcut, feel free to just say these two angles are congruent. So B is 87 degrees. All right. Our last section on all of these, we're just finding X. So we know that these two add up to 90 degrees. So we could say 28 plus 5x plus 2 equals 90. Like terms, so we get 5x plus 30 equals 90. Subtract 30 from both sides, 5x equals 60. And divide by 5, so x equals 12. And now you're starting to see why we spent time going over solving equations. For number 34, these are a linear pair, so we know they will add up to 180. So we have 51 plus 5x plus 4 equals 180. Like terms, that would give us 5x plus 55 equals 180. Subtract 55 from both sides, 5x equals 125. And divide by 5, so x will be 25. All right, and the last two are really just like these two. 35, they're complementary, 36, they're supplementary. So we know these add up to 90. So we've got 54 plus 2x plus 10 equals 90. Like terms, so 2x plus 64 equals 90. Subtract 64, 2x equals 26. And divide by 2, so x equals 13. And then on number 36, they have to add up to 180. So we've got 3x plus 1 plus 2x plus 14. That's sloppy. I'm going to rewrite that for you. 2x plus 14, and those add up to 180. We've got two different x terms and two different constant terms to combine. So this gives us 5x plus 15 equals 180. Move our 15 over. So 5x equals 165. Divide by 5. So x equals 33. so that's it for your review. If you needed to watch all of this, then I suggest you spend a little bit more time reviewing before our test coming up. Please, in class, if you have questions, ask me about them. Use your words. That is what I am here for. I'm happy to help you out. So make sure you study, make sure you know all these vocabulary terms, because if you don't know the terms, you can't really read the problems. So study, make sure you know vocabulary, and good luck.